Please join me in lighting the chalice. The words are in your order of service. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Low Country. I have just a couple of announcements this morning. If you will look at your insert in your order of service, we have Dr. Neil Jones coming this next Sunday, and then I guess we'll be here in Bluffton on August 6th. And if you can take a look at our theme for this month and get an understanding of what covenanting stands for, that's what we're going to be working on. Also, I wanted to let you know that Danny Goldsmith, who was speaking to us a few weeks ago about his experience during the Holocaust, he has donated his speaker's fee to the Zucker Goldberg Center for the Holocaust Studies in the college, at the College of Charleston. And at this time, do we have any new visitors? If you are willing and able to stand, we'd like to get to say hello to you. If you can give us your name and perhaps where you're from. Anybody? Oh, yes.
I'm Karen Miller, and I am the daughter of Roy and Deb Miller. Welcome.
Welcome.
I live in Oklahoma City.
Oh.
That's a ways.
Anyone else? Okay, well now we'll have our opening words with Reverend Charlie Tyler.
In my old world, some of you know a bit about that.
Thank you.
In my old world, as I would be talking to individuals from the congregation that I was participating with, we might be downtown in a small little rural setting, having a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop. And as myself and perhaps a leader of some kind are leaving together, we're standing on the sidewalk, and a young person, heavily tatted, walks by. Perhaps it's a girl, perhaps it's a guy. And I remember the conversations that would happen. If only we could get that person to church, we could fix her. And I remember suggesting to my friend that she might not necessarily be broken. However, one of the things that I have discovered here is it's almost a requirement for you to understand your brokenness to find your place here in this space. And that's the community that I want to talk about, and some of the paradoxes that can come. And so I hope that we're able to find our way to find the depth and the value of this community right here in front of me, the community that has gathered around you and will continue to be there for you. That's my hope today. If you would please take your hymnals into your hands, turn with me, if you will, to 311. I think I have that right. Yes, let it be advanced. Stand if you're willing and able.
Thank you.
This is the time in our service where we share our abundance. If you brought any food for the Sandalwood Food Pantry or the Self-Help Food Pantry in Bluffton, we have a table at the back of the sanctuary to leave your food items. Also, we will now pass the baskets so that we may work on keeping these doors open and doing the good works, continue the good works in and outside of these walls. Thank you all for your generosity.
And now it's time for our joys and concerns. We share our joys with one another, and that amplifies them. We share our concerns with one another so they're easier to bear. You would come forward, tell us your name, and share your joy or your concern, taking a stone from the basket, and after you share, place the stone in the cairn. We do not broadcast this part of the service, and we ask that you make no political statements or announcements at this time. And now come forward.
Hi, I'm Linda.
I'll take 2 stones and place them in the cairn for the joys and concerns that remain in your hearts. And of course, I did that wrong. And if you'll join me now in reading the affirmation, which is number 458 in your hymnal. Mindful of the truth, our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice. Reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. And now, before I turn it over to Charlie, since this is kind of an announcement, I didn't want to do it during Joys and Concerns, but you may be confused about whether or not we're having anything after the service, and we are. We're having, and this I would have characterized as a joy, we're having a presentation by Gwen and is Angela? Oh, there you are. Angela Wright from the Low Country Pride, and Gwen, who has been a speaker for us before. They will present to you an educational moment of understanding the terminology in the LGBTQIA+, and you will learn what those things mean. So you'll go to have a cup of coffee, a piece of cake, which, by the way, is Gwen's birthday. And then we'll regroup here for the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Charlie Tyler. For those of you that don't know me, just a little bit of background. I'm a native of Clearwater, Florida, but most of my growing up was in the Cincinnati area. It's where I learned to speak not Southern. However, I've been in this part of the world since 1973. I transferred to the University of South Carolina and graduated from there in 1976 with a degree in education. Started my master's work in Jackson, Mississippi, where I finished my Master of Divinity at Reformed Theological Seminary, served 2 Presbyterian churches for a little over 30 years before my world went upside down and I found my way here. And this has been a delight for me and healing for me and hope for me every time I stand here, every time I am here. And I thank you for your privilege, and I thank you for your presence here today. And I hope that this is going to be a meaningful time. Buddy, I couldn't help but identify with your heart and with your concerns and with your losses. And we will be sending everything that the universe can do to rally around you. And the other thing I'm going to suggest is if you're sitting close to Ellen, move away. Several weeks ago, I was reading in the New York Times, oh, David went to hug her. Oh my goodness, that's why I love this place. These are not things that were a part of my old life. This is what happens here on a regular basis, bless your heart. But David, I think I see your tire coming down out in the parking lot. Several weeks ago, I was reading in the New York Times. I subscribed to it online, and I was introduced to Rabbi Wolpe, W-O-L-P-E. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right and honoring him. He is the Max Webb Emeritus Rabbi of the Sinai Temple and a visiting professor and scholar at Harvard Divinity School. And he had written an article that really captured my attention. And there's a paragraph that I want to read as an opening part of this, because this is what really has innervated me for this particular message concerning the value and depth of our community. He writes this way. He says, after 26 years in the rabbinate, as I approach retirement, I have come to several realizations. First is all of us are wounded and broken in one way or another. Those who do not recognize it in themselves or in others are more likely to cause damage than those who realize and try to rise above through the brokenness. And this is what binds together a faith community. That was the sentence. This is what binds together a faith community. No religious tradition, certainly not my own, looks at an individual and says, there, you are perfect. It is humility and sadness and striving that raises us, doing good that proves the tractability of the world and its openness to improvement, and faith that allows us to continue through the shared valleys. And as a rabbi, I know he's referring to the 23rd Psalm, in the valley of the shadow of death. Those are all of our shared valleys. And I remember a lot as I was listening to and sort of putting myself into this particular article. I remember those conversations that I referred to earlier, when we would see someone go by who probably would feel uncomfortable in the church of which I was a part, and wish that we might be able to make that person feel welcome, not because they would come and be welcome, but because they would come and be healed, that we would fix them once they were there. There's a paradox of accepting an unspoken brokenness. And the example I see is weekly in my life. Those of you who know me for a while know that I also participate as the chaplain with Hospice Care of the Low Country. I spend a lot of my days with those who are in their end-of-life journey. And we also offer support groups, grief groups, bereavement support groups, 2 a week throughout this community. And week after week after week, I watch the paradox unfold in front of me. Each person there is living with their own loss. Each person in that room is living with their own brokenness. Now, in the confines of a grief and loss support group, the brokenness is pretty specific. In this place right now, it's a little bit broader, but in that group, it's pretty specific. No one needs to speak a word, and yet everyone speaks freely. And the thing that I watch happen in those days and in those hours, and some of you know it well, is that there is this thing that starts to happen in the room. I can't measure it. I haven't found anything that I can point to. But the thing that begins to happen in the room is trust starts to build, and it's palpable. Safety builds, and it's palpable. Security builds, and is palpable. And that trust and that safety and that security enter the room like a fragrance. And people begin to breathe, some of them for the first time in a long time. They are now free to breathe because everyone knows everyone else is not there to fix them. And if there's one thing that's a hindrance, as Rabbi Wolpels talks about earlier, there's one thing that's a hindrance in most of the organized traditions of our country and in our world, is that when you walk through those doors, there is a presumption that you need fixing. But in these rooms, in these hours where we sit together and share our common losses, everyone knows this is not fixable. None of us in here are, but we are here together. In there to share the journey and to support emotionally all others, and that is when the paradox shows up. In that moment, when everyone understands that my support is not going to come from what you can teach me, but my support will come from what you can share about your work, your life, your heart, when you offer that to us in safety and security and in trust, then that paradox begins to unfold. Healing begins to happen in the atmosphere of common brokenness, not in an agenda to fix anybody's grief. That's the paradox. It happens anyway. And hour after hour, and week after week, and month after month, and year after year, I've watched it take place. And that's an amazing community to be a part of. But it starts in a real intense place, as you can imagine. It starts in a deep place, and it begins to move forward quickly. But when that healing starts to happen, I usually sense it and see it in and around one of two statements or questions. One is the statement, me too. And the other is a question, you too? Think about that. When someone can speak their experiences into the room and somebody else on the other side of the room says, yeah, me too, somebody goes, oh, I'm not crazy. You are also in this journey too? You too? And that's when the support starts, and that's when the healing starts, and that's when things really begin to change inside the emotional journey that so many people are on. Perhaps some of us don't yet fully understand that the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Low Country is just such a community. Exactly that. Not all of you are here because of grief. Some of you are. Not all of you are here because of whatever is common. But every one of you, I think, understands your own brokenness and understands your own need of being beside someone who understands you. And that's what I find the depth and the value of this particular congregation. There are others like us, I'm sure, but there's only one that I can stand in front of and make that statement, and that's this one. And I offer it to you for your own security, for your own value, for your own hard work in moving from one place to the next, whatever that might be in your own life. This is the same kind of community where trust and safety and security is in the air that we breathe right now, right this moment. Someone in front of you, someone beside you, someone behind you, if you were to open your heart to your own brokenness, would say, oh, me too. And then it starts. And then the depth goes on. And then the paradox begins to unfold. You too, me too, is spoken here every day. All the times that you're together throughout the week, all the times that you break bread together, all the times that you share in a committee work, all the times. Me too and you too is spoken here. And you begin to see it, sense it in your own life, and feel it specifically. Give me a moment, if you will, to let me circle back around to brokenness, because I need to try and push the walls out just a little bit. I want to make it easy, but at the same time, I need to make some adjustments here. To me, and it may be just me, there seems to me to be two basic categories of brokenness. And I know that that's a wide blanket I just threw out, and some of us can talk about this later. But for me, what I'm talking about is two basic categories of brokenness. The first basic category are the wounds and the brokenness that is assigned you by someone else. Two Presbyterians talking about a tatted girl on the way down Main Street. Assigned them by someone else. And the second are the wounds and the brokenness that comes to you because you're alive. Because you're here and living life. Those are the wounds that also come to us. The LGBTQ community is an example of assigned brokenness. Religious institutions and social institutions are quick to assign that brokenness. Equally so the Hispanic community, equally so the African American community, equally so the aging community. And as I become one and work with one, I begin to see how much those areas of our country, of our life, are assigned a less than. I go in and out of facilities. I work with people who are very, very ill and their families, and I see the way in which ageism is becoming another one of the less thans, assigned brokenness. You should know that no one in any of these communities that I have just spoken are less than anything or broken. They are who they are, and that's what matters. And the second category that I think is significant are those that have come to brokenness simply by being alive. By having lived 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I think 90 is in the room, I'm not sure. Those who have lived those number of decades, loss was clear, and the wounds that come. And sometimes we can see it clearly in the death of a spouse, or the loss of a child, but the losses are also the same in the heartache or the loss of health, the loss of income, the loss of a home, the loss of a relationship, a marriage, a dream. Who here is not out of that category? I am, and you are. And we bring them into this place, because we know somebody else here has it too. And they will honor you, and you will honor them. And then one day, somebody will say, oh, you too? Well, me too. And the healing starts, and things begin to transform. And there are those of us who see a number of other brokennesses. It just comes from being alive. And some of us seem to find ourselves being surrounded by more than our fair share of selfish people that manage to offer a great deal of brokenness and wounds into our lives. And also when the brokenness that comes from being alive comes to those who have been assigned less than, then the wounds go even deeper, even harder to heal, even more destructive, when they're piled upon each other in that kind of way. And that's why this movement here in this place is so important. Walpole also captures the broken essence of community, and he writes this way: I still believe, he says, the synagogue is a refuge for the bereaved and proves a roadmap for the searcher. That just lights me up. That the synagogue, that the congregation provides that place as a refuge for the brokenhearted, for the bereaved. Fill it in with your own brokenness, your own wounds, and provides a roadmap for the searcher, and that roadmap can also be found here. And I believe here in this place, here in this synagogue, in this community, the miracle wrapped in the paradox unfolds on a regular basis. In this community, no one is here to tell you you are broken. No one has to. In this community, no one here has to tell you how to be healed or how to move towards perfection, or even some form of perfection is possible. That will not happen here. But there are others also, like you, like me, like us, in this place. And that's where our strength comes from. That's the value and that's the depth of this group of people that I look at, that I call the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Low Country. Those are just words. The hearts that are here is where the strength is. The hearts that are here is where the value is. And I cannot hold your heart up high enough. And I wish for you to do the same. Because when you do, you will not be able to keep it from someone else. You will not be able to not share that. And that's where we begin to make changes and transformation. Here there are two sentences, one statement, one question. And the miracle wrapped in the paradox unfolds. Broken people being healed. Walpole concludes his message this way. He writes, religion may be on the decline in this country and in the West, but if you wish to see the full panoply of a human life, moments of ecstatic joy and deepest sorrow, the summit of hopes and the connections of community, they exist concentrated in one place. Do you hear those words? Everything that there is in a community exists concentrated in one place. Right here, where you are. I love that heart. That concentration exists in the local house of worship. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. And this is where we begin to find the depth and the value of this extraordinary community. Thank you for your attention. Clay's not here, and Kim and I are trying to figure out how we're going to move next. If you would please take your hymnals into your hands, turn with me to hymn number 318, and maybe stand and sing together. If you're able, we would be one. Closing words to the thoughts today. And I need for you to know that here, broken woundedness is almost a requirement. To find your place here, to find your heart here. And here, broken wounded people are always welcome. And when you walk through the door, there is not an agenda. When you walk through the door, you step into a community of broken people and find the heart and find the security that comes from that. This sacred place, this community is deep. And it is loving. And those of us, our you, our us, our we really are those people. And I want you to know that I see you, and I want you to know that you see each other. Thank you.
If you're willing and able, please stand, excuse me, while we extinguish the chalice. While we extinguish this flame, we still carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community,